Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Conversation Capital. Today we've got, as always, the voice of reason behind the microphone. It is Bonga Bueta. Hey girl, how you doing? And then we have investment practitioner, investment professional, investment guru, investment everything, Mr. Thami Netha. Hi. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. So I think it was very important for us to have an episode on finances because, you know, as a community we're creating here at Conversation Capital, we also want you guys to start balling out.
Yes.
And so Thami's going to be telling us how to get to those places where we start investing and, then actually just segueing into my first question, what is an investment? What's an investment portfolio?
So an investment is capital that you put at risk for the hope of a future return. An investment portfolio is that capital that you put at risk in different things and they come together and they become a basket of investments, and that's a portfolio. Simply put. Look, if I'm going to be honest, our profession is not remarkably complicated. We like to make it so you pay us fees, but we basically take your money and try and grow it, and we charge you for that. In some instances, you can do it for yourself with limited scope, and then in most instances, it's done for you. So your pensions, your medical aid savings, that kind of money is put aside, and it's invested on your behalf by some professionals. So it's not as complicated as we would like you to think it is, so we can charge you more.
Actually, when you say that, are you saying that the money we put, I'm so sorry if this is a blunt question, are you saying the money we put like in medical aid is being invested somewhere?
So what those companies do, how they make money, so there's the margin on your medical aid, so you pay in your premiums, and they calculate your probability of claiming. And then they take away that
So I'm sorry, when you say probability for claiming, like how likely are you to get sick and how likely are you to...
Okay. That's why all of them always do those annual tests, they check your weight, and because that goes into a model that predicts your likelihood of certain diseases, and then they put that money aside, some of it aside, then the rest they take it and they invest it and grow it for themselves. So Discovery will balloon its assets by doing that. So that's why they call it medical aid savings, because then they can limit how much you can draw vis-a-vis how much you pay into it. And the difference, they take that money and they go with it. And they build their own portfolio. So medical aid savings is a limit. So they tell you can only spend 6,000 until you have to pay your weight, but your premiums are 1,000 rand a month, for example. After month 6, you've basically put up all the money for your savings. The rest, they take, and they invest for themselves.
I was shocked to find that because, I was on my parents' medical aid, so I never knew the details of it. And then recently got on my own medical aid. So I was off medical aid for a few years, and then recently got on my own medical aid. And I was shocked that I only had 6,600, and it finished like...
Exactly. But yet you're paying premiums every month.
Yes, so, like easily 2 point something a month. I'm like, that's 3 months.
So Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company, was built off insurance.
Yes.
So that insurance float, he took that and invested it in other companies.
Sure.
So it's a great business to be in for that float. The more long-term the products, the better. So life policies, for example, are the best because your probability of claiming is calculated into the price of the policy. And after 8, 9, 10 years, you've paid out most of the time the balance of the policy. So if you got a policy for 2 million and you pay out your monthly after 8 or 9 years with the inflation increases that 10%, you've actually paid Discovery 2 million. So everything after that is just their cash.
Sure.
But they can balance that. So they calculate those probabilities knowing, are you healthy? Do you smoke? Don't you smoke? So smokers' premiums are more expensive. How much do you drink? That's why they have 5 pages of conditions and 1 page with the price. It's to limit how you can claim, and they limit how much they have to pay out.
Okay.
So it's
line or drawing back into investments and what is investing. Why is it? I'm assuming your statement is that it's important to invest.
Yes.
And why is it important then?
I think we need to make it a necessity to make money. I think as a people group, we must accept that making money is a necessity. It's something we must do. And we must talk to each other about that. So a lot of the time we can talk to each other about a lot of things, but we don't talk to each other about money. How do I make it? And if I know you can make it, I must come to you and ask you, how do I make it? There's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, and it's pretty much that kind of story, where people who don't know how to make money talk to a guy who's made it, and they follow on those principles. Secondly, I think also we need to accept our position. There's sort of 3 tiers of wealth. Right? The founders, who sort of dig the ground and build it up to a certain point. Then the builders, who sort of build the building. And then the maintainers, who make sure the building is fine. And a lot of the time, founders want to live like maintainers. You can't live in a world where someone who's 3 generations into having money is living in and trying to do that on a budget. You are hurting yourself. So accept your position. If you're a founder, be a founder. Be in the business of ensuring the foundation is deep and it's solid. Then the next generation will be the builders. They'll build the building, they'll put the windows, the finishings, move in the couches, and then the maintainers will live. They will live in the house and it'll be great. And we must be comfortable that our grandchildren
So when people say that I'm working for my grandkids, that's exactly what it is.
Exactly right. So a lot of the time when we're in investing, our goal is to live like the maintainers. We want to live like the guys who fly business class or who drive nice cars or live in great homes or take their school kids. Exactly.
And you're a founder.
There's a reason why a lot of private schools, the parents, they are old boys or old girls.
Yes, it's old money.
Exactly. So they are now living in that maintenance stage.
Yeah.
Their parents were engineers or whatever and made the sacrifice. They sent them there. Then they went and became doctors and lawyers, and they are sending their kids there who will then become entrepreneurs. You know, so we need to manage that process. So the investment differs based on which stage you're at. So if you're at the founding stage, your only goal is to make money. You don't care whether the stock is black or green. You don't care whether the structures. Your goal is to pile money up, and you're disemotional about how you deal with people. So if you enter a deal with someone and you get 30%, the guy gets 70, you actually don't care about the 70 because your goal is to get that 30 and you're not going to be insecure that someone else is making more money because you are about making money for you. But when you become a builder, those numbers need to start making more sense because I've now got value. I have a foundation. I can build on top. So I now want, but when you become a maintainer, you're now not interested in growing your portfolio 40%. You just want your interest. If you've got R1 billion, you just want 1%, 10% a year. 10% a year is 100 million. Who goes through 100 million over a year? So as a maintainer, you just want your interest. You're not interested in, oh, this portfolio is going to blow. No, I want to maintainer. So I think that's we need to manage that, which is why when people of the Black nation make money initially, and then they buy a lot of these Maseratis and they're trying to live like the maintainers. The maintainers live in Monaco. They're different. They've got 5, 6, 7 generations of wealth. Their money is in trust funds. They think differently. It's being managed by big banks. They get a stipend. You're not there. Yeah, and you must recognize that.
Thami, I didn't know you were going to fetch us.
Oh, wow.
You know, this episode, I didn't know it was about being fetched. But you're so right. You're speaking to, you know, I'm assuming most of our listeners are Black, and you're speaking to the Black person that understand where you're at.
Yeah, and accept it.
And
right?
accept it, yeah.
And it's not shameful to live on a budget. It's not shameful to save money. It's not shameful not to have the things that other people don't have, right? What will be shameful is 3 generations from you, your family still lives the same life you lived. Sure. That is shameful. You know, so if you look at where our parents were and where we are today, I don't think our parents imagined would even be sitting here and talking this fancy English and but we're here. And our children will have to imagine a greater truth for themselves than we have. Yep. And we have to impose on them that they must teach their children to imagine an even greater truth. And if we don't do that, and our capital goes to, because as a founder, that bottle you buy in a club is taking away from building your foundation. Yeah. But as a maintainer, you can buy the whole club. It's all good. Even as a builder, you to some extent can, right? But if you are within a stage of building or founding, you need to recognize how you live your life and accept how you live your life, and drive your ambition with pragmatism through that. And I think if we all did that, I think we would be much further and would be dealing with much more, and we would have the capital to own a large part of the economy. But we can't.
Because, yeah.
And then on top of that, we don't realize money moves at the speed of trust. So the reason we don't work together is because we don't trust each other as people of color. And we don't want to be honest about that. That I can't trust that you really have good intentions for me. And the reasons for that are many, and our doubt, our identity, and so on and so forth. But fundamentally, we don't work together because we don't trust each other. Whereas maintainers don't have that problem, because they have very little to lose, so they can trust their neighbor, because in their neighborhood, everyone's a maintainer. You know what I'm saying? Like they have a different set of, the reason why Ekasi, they trust each other, because they all know within this space we're all founders. This is where we are. But it's us guys who've left the townships or in the middle class and live in apartments, and we don't trust each other. And as a result, we don't work together. And as a result, we don't own anything. And that's the investment part we have to work towards.
So where does one start?
Saving. Money is, you know, my father used to say something, I'll translate it into English. They've got an English saying that says, don't chew with your mouth open. Save the money. Don't show us you have money. Save it. Put it away. Money is for saving. In fact, in my language, they say, like, money doesn't rot, so don't eat it like it rots. It's 100 rand will be 100 rand tomorrow. And it will be 100 rand for your children, it will be 100 rand for your grandchildren. It doesn't get rotten. So the first part is save. Don't spend more than you earn. And then after you've saved, deal with your debt. Like whatever you owe, get out of that. And then after that, you can then say, I've got this X amount of money, I can put it in something I understand. So even when you look at how do I invest my money, if you don't understand cryptos, keep your money in your pocket. The safest place for your money is in your pocket. If you don't understand it, but if you understand cosmetics, for example, then you can look at cosmetics companies. And when you invest with knowledge. If you learn and you study it and grow your circle of knowledge, great. But generally, people go with the trend. And when you go with the trend, the guys who understand it are selling and you are buying. Because they know you actually don't understand what's happening, and you lose out. So you start by saving, kill your debt, and there's other debt which just can't be killed quickly, mortgage, for example. So reduce all the other things, accounts, car, whatever, and get to a point where your disposable income is enough for you to risk it or risk some of it on a venture of whatever sort. So you buy a rental apartment. It has its risks, you must understand it. You invest in a franchise. It also has its risks, you must understand it. You invest in the stock market. It has its risks and you must understand those. And if you don't find people who do and talk to them, a lot of people just rush into these things. More research, more diligence before you put up your money. I think that would be the first thing to say.
More research, yeah. But let's say now...
It seems so overwhelming, like the world of investment. It seems so overwhelming, like you don't know where to start.
So when
easy equities came, I just was like, I'm going to put my money here and forget about it. Because it seems like a safer, easy way out. I don't know if I wake up one day and it's no longer there.
But I don't know. You're right, easy equities has made things easier for the layman.
It has. And that's the point, right? The point is that...
Maybe let's get into what easy equities is in case people...
Yeah. Do you want to... Let's not promote a particular product
without being...
Go Google.
Without being compensated for it. But the point I'm making is...
Invest.
The point is that they have worked hard to break down what has been complicated. So the truth is, investment in and of itself is not a complicated task. And to prove it to you, an engineer can become an investor.
Yes.
But an investor can't easily become an engineer. So finance as a realm or can be learnt by anyone. Right? So we need to remove the complexity about it, right? And then say, which easy equities have done. So they've got tutorials, you read through them, you watch the videos.
Accessibility.
Yeah, exactly right. So And even then, it's a small percentage of South African population that can actually access it, because a simple thing like data makes the use of easy equities very hard for the majority. So
this is true. This is true.
You know, so that's why they are pushing people.
So it's made it accessible for people who already have some level of knowledge.
Yes.
Or
there's
income.
Still a lot of
Or
but there's still a lot of people kind of left behind, despite how accessible it feels to me.
And that's fundamentally why South Africa is not growing. That the people who have the capital don't know how to coordinate and deploy it properly. So we all have money somewhere, but MTN is getting all of it, right? And so we don't, and that's why people
funny
get.
Because so much money goes to data.
Yes.
It's true.
And it's fundamentally why the government gives you grants, right? The government gives grants because people will spend, and what will they spend? On the basics. So the people who will motivate for the grants will be the ShopRites, will be the MTNs, will be the Vodacoms. They will sit with the National Treasury and say, hey, we want you guys to continue to do this, because that money goes straight to them. They are at the bottom of the pyramid. And I think we just don't want to be honest. And that's, I think, our fundamental problem. Let me give you an example. We always complain that, so I've traveled the continent, for example, like Nairobi, that city really never sleeps. Like I can leave my hotel and it's safe. So as a woman, you can leave your hotel at midnight and walk to the club.
Yeah.
Like walk there and have fun and leave there at 6 and get
This
every day.
This is true.
Every day, right? But they can do that. And then you ask yourself, why doesn't that happen in South Africa? Well, if you tell the majority of people to be home by 6 for 50 years, by default, that's what we now do. We all just get home at 6. No one can explain it, but we all go home at 6. But you've told us that for 50 years. You told the majority of people you need a pass, otherwise be home at 6. Then we're shocked why we don't have a night economy. And these are the things we don't want to talk about. These are the realities of our society we don't want to deal with.
You're saying something I've never heard of or thought of, or
And so our economy then struggles because guys can't work in the factory at night, because we've structured our economy not to have that. Whereas if you go to the US or other places, people have night jobs. People who literally
People
leave,
that have a day job to go to a night one.
So suddenly we've restricted our productivity to only daylight. We've restricted our consumption to only daylight. Right?
And even the industries that have shift patterns are particular industries, you know, manufacturing and so forth.
Correct.
It's not every industry.
Yeah, because you have to pay more. It's now overtime, so it's 1.5 times or 2 times the salary, whatever. Whereas,
but even the labor that has traditionally been in those industries is black people.
Correct.
So, yeah.
So it becomes hard then to build a mall in particular townships or particular rural areas, because people just won't be there after 4 o'clock.
Yes.
Right? And other things that we say to ourselves, which are not true. Taxis are not public transport. They are privately owned public services. So we can't walk around saying like, so our government actually hasn't given us, the Gautrain is public transport. So you can see that even the way we invest as a state, we are not applying it accurately. And we've got big assets. Eskom, biggest asset in the country. But how we are going about the power stations and all, like, we need to think differently about where we are put our money, how we apply it, and as a people, as a group. Like, if you look at the tax numbers, I think it's 640,000 people earn above 1.5 million in South Africa. And they contribute between 40 and 45% of income tax.
Sure.
So you say like 1 billion people put up half the money. Like there's something structurally unsound there.
Yeah.
But if you don't give the other 59 million the ability to actually work and be productive outside the mine, like you limit even the scope of me who wants to put in money and how we put in the money and how we develop ourselves, how we get returns. And I think it's something we have to think about differently, and where we drive our capital. Like, you've got to ask yourself, who owns the bread we buy? Sure. These are the questions. And if for example, like I've got an MTN contract. As a result, I'm an MTN shareholder. Like, I must benefit from my consumption. You know what I'm saying? Like, and these are the things we must start thinking about. If you shop at ShopRite every day, it makes rational sense to be a ShopRite shareholder, right?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you must benefit from your consumption.
Yes.
And we need to start thinking through these things. And it will drive commerce differently within our...
So, you spoke of the steps and you started off with save money, kill debt, and then start, looking at, how can you start investing in what you know and the knowledge behind. So what does that look like? What's a good saving for me to say, okay, now I can start investing? And when I start, because I'm somebody who just started my career, I've been studying for a very long time. And so now I'm moving into the space where I'm thinking, okay, how can I invest successfully as a founder,
So so there's a price to be paid for that. And I think that's another thing we don't tell each other. There's a price to be paid for it. So ideally what you want is to have about 6 months of your monthly salary worth before you start investing. So in essence, it's a 3-year savings period of some sort. So you want to get to a point where if you lose your job today, you can survive 6 months. After that cash, then you can invest. But that also, it means you must sacrifice a lot.
So your salary times 6.
Your net salary times 6.
Meaning what you get.
Yes, post-tax, because that's your disposable income,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So if it's 1,000 Rand, when you get to 6,000 Rand, your 7,000 Rand can now be invested, ideally. But it doesn't work. It doesn't always work like that.
So the 6,000, you leave it.
You leave it. It must go there. You must plug it in and don't touch
I'm
it.
going to invest that. No, you don't touch that. Oh.
You keep it because life happens. We get retrenched. Things go wrong, and it's a fact of life. We also don't want to accept that life, especially at the founder stage and at the bottom of the pyramid, is quite volatile. The person who has 10 years experience in an MBA, even when they talk about mortgages or loans to that person, is very different. That's why the bank always asks you, how long have you had that job? How much do you earn? Send us your payslip. It's an algorithm to determine how much they deem is affordable for you to pay them back. So it's important to manage that.
And then what is a bad investment? What's a bad investment? And
The
how
one
do I
that
identify?
loses you money.
How do I identify?
In my language, you call it umzwangedwa. Like, there's something in you that will tell you that this is most likely not for you. And the issue is we don't want to accept that our greed often overcomes our reason. So we look at something and we know in our heart of hearts this is not. And there are many of these things that happen where you deposit money here and in 3 weeks it comes out and it's this amount. And
I can already think of one thing that I put money in because I was like...
Exactly. Because
till now, I haven't seen
round
cent.
So it's a character issue. A bad investment is a character issue. Is you accepting, you have to accept that your greed can overcome your reason.
Sure.
And once you accept that, then you look at things rationally. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to ask someone who has a opposite character to yours if this looks good. Because they'll generally tell you what you don't want to hear. Because that's what whenever you look at investors, that's what due diligence is. You want to know the things that will make me not invest. You're not trying to confirm your thesis because you already have one already. You already feel like if I buy ShopRite as a stock, I sit here, I look at all these people who constantly spend here and right? Now you say, okay, what are the holes in my theory? So I must come to you and say, this is what I'm thinking, and walk through that and accept it when it comes. And I think it's simpler in that way. There's details, there's technicalities to it, understanding the accounting, which is a skill you must learn if you want to especially invest in stocks and shares, understanding the accounting side, understanding when someone says EBITDA or revenue, what they mean, and getting into that detail. Sometimes...
EB what?
EBITDA. Yeah. Earnings before interest and tax, depreciation and amortization. Now, you can Google that and learn that, right? But understanding understanding the accounting behind things helps you. Then you understand that a good company has a certain set of numbers, a bad one has a certain set of numbers, and those numbers are generally what will guide you. Right? So there's the technical side.
Yes.
But investing is boring in the sense that it's more research and due diligence than actually just scooping up the returns. So the money is not falling from heaven. It's not manna. Right? You're going to do a lot of digging, and you're going to hit water on some, and you're going to hit dry wells on others. But if you stay consistent and disciplined, you'll hit more water than dry wells over the course of your life.
Yes. I mean, and then, you spoke of these three phases that we have. We've got the foundation, the builders, and the maintainers, right? And then you look at somebody like Elon Musk in one lifetime. He's managed to...
No, but he's straight up a founder. So his mom and his dad had issues, right? And he went to Pretoria Boys, etc. But he went to varsity, he found an idea, he backed that idea, and it scaled. The question now is, how will his kids manage that wealth? That's where we'll see the difference, right? Because he's a founder. It's just that his foundation is huge, but he's a founder, right?
We haven't seen it post him.
Correct. Which is different from Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos was adopted. His parents were able to take him to Montessori. He grew up in a different society. He went into the investment banking. Then he built Amazon. So his views are going to be different from Elon's views. Bill Gates, builder. His parents were lawyers. They did the hard work. He got into Harvard, and he could then move from there. Boom. So his kids will be maintainers. They just do. Steve Jobs, founder. Right, so it's two different dynamics of people who come from...
So the amount of money you manage to found does not determine where you're at.
No, it's your starting point. Like, where did you start? So my kids, even if this is the best I ever give them, they can never claim they're founders, ever. Because I've sent them to what I believe is the best schools for them. I'm giving them a relatively decent life in South Africa.
Sure, you're even challenging me calling myself a founder.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a builder.
And you must accept that. And there's a price to be paid for that. That's different from the price to be paid for a founder. Right? And once you accept that, you then make the decisions of a builder. Right? They're totally different decisions. You are dealing with cement and bricks. I'm dealing with dirt and forklifts. I was like, we're different people. And if we recognize that, then I'm not going to feel upset that you have a Merc. You know what I'm saying? Because I recognize that you are there, I'm here. My goal is to make sure my kids live like you. And our insecurities go into a lot of that. But once we recognize those dynamics, we go further. We go much further.
So, just looking, last question, the social now aspect of it, with regards to these movements that are being pushed on social media, support black business, are those things that are actually working, and what more can we do to really grow the black community?
So unfortunately, development of any nature is done by the minority. So it will never be a mass outcome. It will be a few black people who are going to do extraordinarily well and lift the rest of us with them. And that's across societies, Greek society, Roman society, the United States, England, Germany, Japan, everywhere. It's a few who pay a particularly high price and shift the rest of us up, right?
This is so interesting because sometimes we hate to be part of that minority, because we feel like we're making so many sacrifices.
Yeah, the price is big. There's a big price. Yes. And that's another thing we've got to accept. There's a price to be paid. You can get a great career, you can finish fast, you have a great career and live a good life, right? You get a great house in Bryanston, send your kids to St. Stithians, whatever the case may be. You can live a good life, right? But that in essence doesn't really change the dynamics of the entire nation at large. You are contributing to the tax base. Then there's someone else who's going to take the risk, like Patrice took. He was a partner, and he was a partner at a big law firm, but he took the risk. We can complain about who he was with, who he works with. He paid the price. He made the money. He's now there, and he then can move society. So just the average Sundowns player now earns more than the average soccer player used to earn before. Exactly. So now even the soccer scene has shifted because he's shifted. You know what I'm saying? So
he brought Beyonce.
That's what I'm saying. Or Barcelona, and those kind of things.
In 1 year.
So our life, we now got to see Messi because of the price he paid. You know what I'm saying? So our lives have shifted up.
One person.
So it's never going to be a huge group of us who come together and 1 million, 5 million, 12 million black people say, okay, we're doing this together. Nah. It's going to be a Stockville model. A few of us as a pocket here, another few of us as a pocket here, and a pocket there, and boom. right? And
true.
that's how
Very.
society is going to be moved.
Sure. Thami, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
It's been absolutely amazing. I must be honest, there were many things that I thought would be the outcome of this episode, and all of them, nothing what I expected.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I hope it was better.
No, it was far, above and beyond exceeded my expectation. And this is the thing when you're meeting with somebody that you've never met before. You sometimes don't even know what the expectation is. So I had asked a mutual friend for an investment guru, and he then directed me to you.
I'm not a guru, I'm just a guy
Okay,
who likes making money.
An investment guy who likes making money. And so sometimes, there's a certain expectation that you have, but I think you've really challenged us to broaden the horizon, broaden our thinking, and so thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time to come and chat with me, Bonga, and the rest of the Conversation Capital community. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
So that is the episode for Conversation Capital. Do make sure that you catch us next week for another episode. We love you guys so much, and we're so, receptive of the love in the community that we're building. Don't forget to drop your comments. Let us know what you think of, everything Thami's saying, and share your stories, share your knowledge. It's so important for us. Drop links, because I've noticed some of you people share knowledge that isn't very good knowledge or that isn't very sound knowledge. So drop links. We want facts here at the Conversation Capital. But once again, thank you so much for the love. Goodbye and God bless.